Hi, I'm Lizzy Nash. I'm the founder and executive producer of Walkabout Films in Sydney. We're a production service company that primarily works with American clients, although we've worked with many people around the world.
Hi, Lizzy. We're hearing rumors up here that jobs are being shot in Australia. True or false? Right now.
No, that's definitely true. From what I understand, they're smaller jobs. So they might take the guise of shooting in studio or with, one person at home, etc. All the protocols that we have in place, things are being lifted at the moment, but there are shoots going on, but they're of a smaller nature.
Things are starting to open up. You must be really happy and relieved that your government has gotten the disease growth rate under, from what I've read, 1%.
Look, we're very fortunate, and I think most Australians feel extremely grateful to be here at the moment. We're definitely doing a lot better than a lot of other countries with the pandemic. They're unprecedented times. I mean, we still get affected emotionally of what we actually see going on internationally. But here, I think there's an optimism at the moment, because the kids went back to school this week, which I'm sure most parents were happy about. And this weekend, cafes and restaurants actually open to a smaller number of patrons. I mean, there's still, strict social distancing practices in force. So I think it relies on, people to do the right thing so that we don't see any sort of resurgence. But, of course, the numbers have been quite small in Australia.
And it's been at least 18 months, 2 years of natural disaster there, fires and floods. And I mean, this virus coming on the heels of that, it had to be kind of a blow to you guys. And how is it now in Sydney?
Yes, it has been very difficult for 18 months to 2 years. We actually were suffering terribly with drought prior to the fires that we had 6 months ago. So regional Australia was really suffering.
Let's go back a little bit. When the pandemic first hit Australia, were you in the middle of any projects? Or?
Look, we were actually just wrapping a project, so we were quite fortunate there.
Yeah.
One of my regular producers actually shot the week before closure. Well, we knew it was quite imminent. But what happened with that, and I thought it was quite interesting when I discussed it with her, was that they actually edited it so that there was only one person that appeared in the commercial rather than two, because it was a two-hander. So they re-edited it so that it actually had social distancing in mind and keeping to that protocol. And I thought that was quite interesting. And then that one actually went to air. But at the moment, we're fielding inquiries quite a lot, left, right and centre.
The projects that people are calling on, are they domestic or are they international? Where are they coming from?
At the moment, we're looking at international projects. So those projects range from smaller projects, so from a doco-style, smaller type of shoot, very small crew, one person cast member, to, interestingly enough, I have something that I'm bidding at the moment, which is really kind of a standard US package, that we'd normally look at. And I'd say that probably will shoot maybe next month or July if it actually comes off. But of course, everything is on a case-by-case basis. We have to look at everything individually and at that time. And I think I do believe that clients and agencies are mindful that they have to be a bit more flexible at that time. But it's changing weekly. So every job we will approach differently. But there are protocols in place now for what we will need to do, say if it was next week, and then we'll have to work towards being flexible and changing things as the information comes to hand.
So if you're shooting in early June, it's a very small crew. It's 10 to 20 people perhaps. But let's talk about that standard American package. Would the director be coming down? Would
not at this stage.
Not at this stage. Are the borders open?
No, the international borders are closed at the moment. They're just about to certain states in Australia have been closed completely. The next step will be that they open the borders up between the states, as in our own states of Australia. But as far as international travel, that is completely a no-go.
I would assume you're using a Q-Take system that seems to be the preferred technology of almost every country I've spoken to. And have you been testing that? Tell me a little bit about, how you're thinking about using that.
Yes, we have shot a test a couple of weeks ago. We're just in the middle of editing that, just for something that we can demonstrate to clients as well. But yes, the Q-Take system, and then obviously Zoom is used as communications as well. But the most important thing with the system is that you have to have a minimum of a 4G network for it to work.
Right.
My advice is probably to run the communications on a second device so that you can just run the Q-Take system on your computer, or, you can run your communications off your phone or an iPad or something like that.
Have you thought about how the director, the DP, production designer, if they're not local, how that would work?
Remote streaming will slow things up, for sure. But what we're suggesting is also having some witness cameras so that we can, they can also see, they'll be able to click on not just to the camera angle, but also sort of the wider shot, so that they can give a sort of a more holistic sense of direction.
Like a video blueprint of here's what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I think probably what should happen is that if the producer and director are, say, at the production company in the States, I actually think for the first couple of jobs, I would be suggesting that he has his first AD with him there. So, because, we're going to run into situations where potentially things are going to slow down and so forth. But I think it would be good to have a first AD in the States doing the dialogue to the first AD in Sydney or Melbourne or wherever we might be shooting. And perhaps maybe one of the benefits from this situation is that we're all going to slow down just that little bit, take the breath, really look at what is the important aspect of the scripts coming out, what are the vital pieces of information that need to be communicated, and consider that, and, the people, I guess. But it's also kind of seizing the moment, isn't it? You've got to seize the moment. You've got to be nimble. You've got to be flexible. You've got to be open to change.
Hopefully, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, the corporations and the agencies can be more nimble and can pare things down and make it simpler for you, me, for us in production.
Everything is going to take a little bit more time, especially in the beginning of coming back. The general public might be more nervous. We might throw ourselves in there a little bit more because we've always been living on the edge in the film industry. We've always been adrenaline junkies or what have you. But, as you were saying, it's very important to have the pre-production meetings up front, decisions made very early on so that there's no last minute changes on set. Could you imagine if all of a sudden someone wants a different coloured couch or even a different coloured rug sitting over the couch? Okay, so the process might go at the moment, art department comes in, they dress, they leave the set. Then the next lot of people will be the lighting. Lighting will light. They come out. Camera goes in. Gripping, however it may go, and then all unessential crew will leave set. So if all of a sudden someone wants to change something, then we've got a protocol, and then we might have to do a bit of extra cleaning and whatever it might be. I think, as you said, I think the key is definitely trying to make final decisions at pre-pro meetings to avoid last minute changes.
Since you're first out, and I have a lighting change I'll fix in a minute, but I think I haven't used this location at this time of day, but I think you being first out of the box, or among the first out of the box, will be able to give a lot of people examples on what works and what doesn't work, and they can go to school on you guys.
We all need to sort of help each other during this period so that we all can come out of this with, and if we can help by giving whatever knowledge we come about, from job to job to job, then, so be it. We're here to help people.
Nobody's covered in their insurance for
No.
COVID-19. It's nothing that exists. And I don't see any insurance companies saying, oh yeah, we'll cover you for COVID-19.
This is a tricky one. We're obviously all going to be able to maintain production insurance per se, but for closure of set because of the pandemic and so forth, like say for instance someone got sick or a DP or so forth, I think it's unprecedented territory, but we certainly will be, doing temperature checks, hand washing stations, sanitizer, minimising the amount of people on set. The big thing for moving forward is really going to be about the level of communication between all parties of what we're going to do. And I think we're all consenting adults. Anybody that is going to work on a job is knowing that we will practice best ethics in keeping a clean and sanitized set, etc. But everybody has to take the risk themselves by wanting to work and continuing to work. I can't see it working any other way. But as a producer and as a company, we have to be diligent. We have to provide those safe working conditions, as safe as we possibly can. And in some cases, we might over-train those situations in order to feel comfortable.
So it's pretty early to be making finite decisions. We have protocols. We know what it's going to take by all parties. We're advocating that agencies and marketers be patient, keep it simple, and try to make decisions earlier rather than later. What else do we need to know about this thing other than when?
That's the $10 million question. We're there, we're very close to being there. Very fortunate that we're able to contain it. But, we have much smaller populations. So that's one thing that we were fortunate to have in this sort of situation. And obviously we're an island. So, there's not much, not many avenues to get into Australia, same as New Zealand.
It hasn't been lost on me. I'm sure it hasn't been lost on you or anyone in Australia and New Zealand, but it seems that the leadership that women are providing through this crisis, through this pandemic, is the most effective leadership in many places.
Look, I would agree with that, but I don't want to say that just because I'm a woman. And I've thought about this considerably myself. Is it because women perhaps might be a little bit more emotionally charged by this pandemic as well, rather than making, just a sort of a black and white decision and thinking about the economy and so forth? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but I certainly feel that obviously Jacinda has made she's an incredible leader non-stop. And I actually think our Premier Gladys is doing a really good job too. But then our Prime Minister has done a fairly good job in this instance. We may not have been happy with what he did with the bushfire situation, but he's actually done a pretty good job here.
Finally, Lizzy, what have you learned about yourself in the past 2 months that surprises you the most?
I think I've learnt to slow down. I've been a busy Lizzy my whole life. And I was forced to slow down. Let's put it that way. When you're in lockdown, you have, and it was interesting because in the beginning, you're doing all the online yoga classes, you all of this sort of stuff, and going, wow, I did yoga 5 times this week. I've never done that in my life before. But then I've personally started to slow down, do less yoga, and be present in the situation. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed being at home with my son. But also, I'd say for me, learning to slow down and learning to enjoy cooking again at not great speed, and just try and be present and always thinking about the future, what's going to happen, what can we do. That process never stops. But I think the slowing down for me was surprisingly good. but, you know, there's always certain worries that come in, you know, but I think we're pretty lucky.
Lizzy Nash from Walkabout from Sydney.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for your time. Thank you for joining us. Be well.
No problem.
Talk to you soon, I hope.
Stay safe, stay sane.